I wish I knew that your neighbors matter so much. Wow. The amount of stories I've heard of people who've had neighbors from hell. Like literally, literally got neighbors who are literally from hell. Like nightmare neighbors. Hey guys, today I want to speak to you about what I wish I knew about buying a house at the age of 20. For those who don't know, in case you're new to our channel, my name's Ken and I've been running Humble Penny with my wife Mary for a few years now. And we're mortgage free from a property perspective, but we've learned a lot about our journey when it comes to actually purchasing a home, that whole journey. What I want to do with this video today is just share the things I wish I knew, the things that I hope will help you make wiser decisions when it comes to potentially purchasing a home or even making wiser decisions about the house you live in right now. Many people are going through various changes in their life. Some people are, getting married, some people are going into long-term relationships, some people are leaving relationships and starting afresh. And so this whole subject of buying a home is a hugely relevant one to so many people, okay? Now, this particular video is part of a mini-series where I'm going through things I wish I knew about various things when I was 20. So I've done one on investing, making money, I've done one on pensions. I'm gonna link to some of those below and above for you guys head over and check them out. If you're loving the vibes from today's video, I'd love for you to hit the like button straight away. That gives us a good signal that these sort of videos we're making are ones that you truly like and enjoy, okay? And also don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you love the work that we do here on YouTube. All right, let's dive in. Okay, so the first thing I wish I knew when I was 20 about buying a house is that what matters more than actually buying the house is how much money you borrow, okay? Now this topic, right, I talk about, I love to talk about this topic of buying a house because, when we buy homes, we normally buy homes at very interesting stages of our lives. It might be that you are all cuddled up and loved up, you've got a partner, you're like, yeah, man, like life's going well, we're about to buy a home, we're about to move up, move up a level. And there's all that excitement when it comes to buying a house. And what people forget really is that excitement will fade away. And what you're left with potentially for the next 25 years or 30 years or 35 years of your life even, is this thing around your neck called a mortgage. A lot of people get so excited about this home buying process or house buying process that they borrow so much money, assuming that the line, that they earn will carry on going up on a straight line. I know people who have got so much mortgage debt that they are embarrassed to even mention the number. They're so embarrassed to utter the number. I even know people who are literally waiting, and this is so sad, but it's true, they're waiting for a parent to pass away so that they can inherit money and use that money to pay off their massive mortgage. Then the third example I'd give is that I know people who cannot even think about retiring. It's not even a possibility for them because they've got so much mortgage debt. Now, this is such an important topic. In fact, I'd love to know if any of those scenarios I mentioned actually resonate with you. Jump in the comments and let me know. I had a call from a friend of mine who called me and said, obviously I'm not going to say who it is, just a friend. I'll just tell you some of what we talked about. He said how he's trying to buy a home with his wife and they've got, they're having their second child. So they want to move up that next level, which I believe many people can relate to. They want to try and buy a bigger house. But also, they want to become financially independent. So there are these two competing goals. And I'm like, how much is this property you're trying to buy? And it's like something like 600,000 to 650,000. And I was like, wow, that is so expensive. Now, the thing is quite a lot of people don't estimate what that could look like, what the reality of that. So I want to just give you guys an example. Scaling back even from my friend's example, right? Because we're going to get somewhere with this. Let's say you are trying to buy a property in somewhere like London or an expensive city, because I know many of you don't live in London, you live in different parts of the world. But I've got an example because I want us to look at, because it's good to actually understand the numbers when it comes to buying a property and not get so excited. Let's say your property price is £500,000. Cool, 500,000. I'll put this up on the screen for you to see. And let's say you put down a 10% deposit, so 50,000. And you've borrowed a mortgage of 450,000, assuming you're someone who's earning a good income and you're maybe combining with your partner if you've got one, but you're able to borrow that much money, okay? Let's assume the interest rate's 2.99%, okay? And of course, we can see what's going on with interest rates. They are only heading in one direction. They're going to be going up, and they already are. And then let's assume that you are taking out a 25-year mortgage, okay? With that assumption, your monthly mortgage, I've got my iPad here to kind of give me a number based on some rough calculations. Your monthly mortgage will be £2,132, of which, listen to this, the interest over the terms, over this 25 years, will be £189,483. And then the total payback will be £639,483. That's assuming interest rates stay the same. Of course, interest rates keep going up, because they've been historical lows like for the last decade. So we expect them to keep going up. The point I'm making here is that the thing I wish I knew when I was 20, and I did understand this eventually because we went on that journey to become mortgage free, is that how much you borrow really, really matters. And I was so thankful that we made the sensible decision when we're buying a house to say, this is the cap of what we're borrowing. We're not borrowing in past this amount. And for us, it was that we were not going to borrow anything close to 300,000. It had to be less than 300K for us personally from a borrowing perspective, which meant that we became smart about what type of property we were going to purchase to make sure that we then borrowed an amount significantly below what we could afford. Okay, the second thing I wish I knew was that buying a house can either help you achieve financial independence or stop you achieving financial independence. So let's talk about a helping situation. How can it help you? Well, the first is that buying a house, if you bought a house that you could significantly afford, that's also a big part of a life plan that you've got, then the chances are you'd be motivated to want to actually pay down that house and also invest in other assets like the stock market and so on. But on the other hand, let's look at a scenario where buying a house actually stops you becoming financially independent. This happens where someone has borrowed too much money. Debt is so much for this person that all they do every month is literally go to work and potentially get frustrated at work, go to work, but their core goal is paying down this huge mountain of debt. And then what happens is that debt becomes their sole focus. They then stop actually aiming for other things. They might not prioritize becoming financially independent because it's so outside of their possibility. In fact, there's an extreme case of this where not only have they stopped aiming for other things, they therefore subscribe to the mentality that they are meant to be in debt for life, which means that they may as well max out. They may as well take on more debt. So this might manifest itself by them taking on more debt for things like, private school education for their kids and so on. That compounding in a negative way continues to spiral out of control. The lesson here is that buying a house should not be done in isolation. Don't just say, oh, I'm buying a house. No. You need to have a much wider life plan to which this whole goal of buying a house is only one picture in a much bigger picture of your life when it comes to building wealth and choosing to create the life that you truly want for yourself. The third thing I wish I knew about buying a house is that ambitions to do up a house when you're buying it rarely ever happen when you've actually bought the house, okay? Let me give you some examples, right? I know many people who say things like, oh, I'm gonna buy a house that's a complete wreck and I'm gonna try and do it up, we'll work hard, we'll save some money, we'll do it up gradually as we're going through. Now, if I'm speaking to you right now, I'd love to hear from you in the comments, right? No judgment whatsoever, but I can tell you, 9 out of 10 people that I personally know who've said, yeah, I'm gonna buy a place, I'm gonna do it up, it might look a bit rubbish, but I'll do it up, have never done it. They might paint the place a little bit, like they might go and buy some secondhand furniture, but that's it. In fact, this gets even worse when people say things like, yeah, I'm gonna do an extension, yeah, it's gonna, I'm gonna add this room, I'm gonna do this. Nah, doesn't happen. Why? Because life happens. Many other things show up, things you don't expect happen, and you end up actually using the money you think you're going to use to do all those things to actually essentially survive and get through your life, or maybe even travel or do other things that you want to do. So the moral here is that there are always hidden costs when it comes to buying a house. The things you expect to do will most likely end up not being the things you eventually do. So buy a house that meets your exact needs as closely as possible. I know it's challenging, but if you can, buy a house without any anticipated additional costs that you see coming down the pipe, if you can buy one like that, then you should aim to buy that house, even if you have to pay a bit of a premium to get that. All right, so number 4 is to buy a house that makes sense on paper, okay? Now, look, although buying a house, is not really an investment per se, you're buying it as some place you want to live in and, all that sort of stuff. But the thing I wish I knew, and I knew this to some extent, but I want to just stress this point for you particularly, is that you should buy the house with investment eyes. You should look at it from the perspective of the investor. For example, the things you should be watching out for are, is the property in an area where prices or values have historically been rising? Because there are areas where prices don't rise at all, or they may even decline. Does it have the potential to be rented out one day? Like, look it up. Like, what could this actually fetch you if you had to rent this property out? Imagine like your life circumstances change. Now, obviously we don't wish for those things to happen, but they could happen. Is it in a good catchment area for schools? You might not have plans to have kids, but the people who might buy that house from you one day might, So having it in a good area for schools matters. Finally, does it have any other potentials? Like, for example, when we were buying our house, our home has, we live outside of London deliberately because we wanted to buy a much cheaper house. But very luckily, the people who we bought our house from used to run a dance school. So they had an outer building, like a building at the back of the house where they would do a dancing practice. When we bought the house, we had no idea what we'd do with this piece of building at the back. But today, that building has become a place where we now make our YouTube videos. You can see that in our case, looking out for a property that had some potential for something else has become an advantage for us down the line. Right, the 5th thing I wish I knew really was that becoming mortgage free is truly life changing, okay? Now, I say this as someone who's got to that place and looking from the other end, okay? Because like when we were buying a house, it was just a vision. We were like, yeah, man, it would be great to have this house mortgage free, maybe in 15 years, maybe in 20 years, but we did it in 7 years. And I can link to that video below and above if you've not seen it. When we were buying a home and stuff, like we didn't know anyone we could go up to and go, hey, like, what's life like being mortgage free? How has it changed your life? Like, how are you living? There's no one to ask this question. So I'm hoping that by telling you, you will feel like you actually know someone who's done it and who you can actually ask that question. They haven't done it when they're 60 or 65. They've done it in their 30s. Yeah. Now, I can tell you, facts, this mortgage-free thing is so life-changing. There's no day that I wake up ever thinking, I'm just saying this without sounding like I'm trying to show off, that, like, how am I going to pay my bills? Or I'm worried about like some bill we haven't paid or anything like that. And a big driver for that mental freedom, a big driver for it is not having a mortgage, okay? And bear in mind, like, we didn't like inherit any money. I've never inherited a thing. I haven't inherited anything. I had to work to get to this place with my wife. It was a goal, okay? So I'm saying this to say, remember how I made that point earlier, that like buying a house should not be seen in isolation. You need to be really clear on like where this house fits into your overall wealth plan. And for us, we wanted to get to that place where we were completely mortgage free because it was just a desire. And now being here now, like, boy, I can tell you, man, like it feels good. Because like I'm in London right now. I'm away doing some filming, focusing, launching a product called the Architect Program. And I'm working on it in isolation because I want to get this stuff done. But I can tell you now, like this stuff I'm doing now, the videos, the YouTube, our blog, our academy, all these fun things we're doing, like my wife launching a food brand. Listen, we're able to do all those things because like we've got nothing tying us down. We can do whatever we want, whenever we want. And a big factor that plays into that is becoming mortgage free. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I can tell you, like, if it's something you truly want to achieve, don't be discouraged by anybody else telling you, oh, don't try and pay off your home, blah, blah, blah. Do what works for you, yeah? If this is one path you want to follow, then I can, from my own perspective, tell you that's a life-changing goal to aim for. We've made a bunch of videos on this topic because becoming mortgage free, there are certain circumstances where it might not be suitable for you. So we've made a video about that. I'll link to that video below and above. So head over and check that out. We also made a video actually just sharing like what it feels like to be mortgage free. I wanted you to also hear not just from my perspective, but to hear from a woman's perspective, to hear my incredible wife's perspective. She also shares her own thoughts on that. So again, I'll link to that video below and above for you to head over and watch it in your own time. All right, so my next point is that This one's going to be slightly controversial, but I'm going to say it anyway. Is to avoid leasehold properties if you can afford to do so. Okay, now I know that not everybody can buy a property on their own, you know, because properties are expensive. Some people have to buy using various schemes and so on, and some people might not be able to buy a freehold property, in which case they would have to buy a leasehold property. But I'm speaking from experience, right? As someone who I started off with a leasehold property, and I can tell you, man, it was not good. What I mean exactly is there were just hidden costs to having a leasehold property, principally the service charging. Boy, and then you have those hidden costs, man. The service charge keeps going up. You're getting, my annual bills are more than like $2,000, $2,500. It just kept going up, man. You know, so where you think you've bought a property, you've taken out a mortgage, you know you've planned and so on, then there's this thing that you don't have any control over whatsoever. Any control. So yeah. All right, next one is that I wish I knew that your neighbors matter so much. Wow. The amount of stories I've heard of people who've had neighbors from literally, they've literally got neighbors who are literally from hell, like nightmare neighbors. Now, we're so blessed. We are so blessed in that, like, our neighbors are incredible. And this is one of those things when you're buying a house, you don't really think about it. You're like, yeah, I bought my house. Yeah, looks good. I'm living in my house. Except your house has everything to do with your neighbors. Like, if your neighbors are terrible, you would have an awful time. In fact, I'd love to know from you guys in the comments below, have you had bad neighbors? And what impact has that had on your well-being, your mental health, your home, your happiness, all of that stuff? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear some reality, some real life stories, yeah? Our neighbors are incredible. Our neighbors, they're so good. They take our deliveries when not home. Like, they look after our home when, like, we go on holiday. We give them our door keys. We're like, yep, here you go. Look after the house, go in. Like, if anything's not working, please turn it off. They even bring in our bins. When it's bin day, our neighbors help to bring our bins in. And we do the same, obviously, and so on. It's like it's just mutual love for, you know, neighbors on either side. And I think that's so important to consider when you're buying a house. So ask the questions, you know, just go around and speak to people and just get a sense for what vibes you're getting in that place that you're considering to buy a house. Because honestly, once you're in, it's so hard to get out if you've got terrible neighbors. So you want to make sure you're doing that work upfront and getting the right property with the right vibes as well when it comes to neighbors. The final point, and I honestly think this is possibly one of the most important points, and it's that a house becomes a home only when there is love in it. Yep. Now, you know how I talked about being mortgage-free earlier? You could have a home that's mortgage-free and you could be miserable because there's no love in your home. Yeah? So a house becomes a home when there's love in it, right? And this applies to every situation. If you're a single person, you know, if you haven't got any self-love in your house, there's no, like, you don't feel like you're in a home. You don't feel like, you know, you would just not be in a happy place. If you're someone who's just in a relationship, you know, you've got a partner, that sort of stuff, again, that love really needs to be there because that's what makes the home. Then finally, I talk to parents. You know, I'm in a parental situation. I'm married. I've got 2 kids. I know, like, honestly, there's so much work goes in to build a marriage, to build a relationship, to look after children, so much work. But if you really get into the process, you really enjoy this, you buy into the vision of building a loving home. It's really about giving. Like, you know, you're not just selfish and want to take all the time. You're actually looking out for your spouse, or you're looking out for your kids. You're truly being there. You're being there for yourself. Very important, you know. All of that matters, you know. So I say all that to say that one thing I wish I knew when I was 20 was that it wasn't really just about buying a house, because, like, you have the house, but then, you know, the house has to become a home. The house has to become the hub of love. Guys, I really hope you've enjoyed this video. You know, I'm really loving making this series. Like, it's so good being able to look back and just talk about, like, some of the things I wish I knew when I was in my 20s. Obviously, this will apply, you know, if you're in your 30s, 40s, and so on, because we're all really on a life journey, okay? If you enjoyed this video, hit the like, come on people, show me some love, and share this video with one other person who you think will take a lot of value from this very topic. As I mentioned before, this video is part of a mini-series on things I wish I knew when I was 20, and I've made other videos which I will link to below. So head over, binge on them, check them out, and share them with other people, okay? Don't forget to subscribe to our channel as well if you are loving the work we do here, okay? Guys, thank you so much for watching today's video. Jump in the comments and talk to me, give me some reactions and so on. And as ever, people, in all things, be thankful and seek joy. Take care and bye for now.